Unlock the secrets of victory. Sun TZU's The Art of War Unveiled. Discover the timeless wisdom of Sun TZU's masterpiece, The Art of War. This legendary book holds the keys to mastering strategy, leadership, and success in every aspect of life. Whether on the battlefield, in business, or personal growth, Sun TZU's teachings guide you to outsmart challenges and achieve greatness. Let the journey into the art of winning begin. Transcription of the text of Sun TZU on the Art of War, the oldest military treatise in the world. Translated from the Chinese by Lionel Giles, M.A., Assistant in the Department of Oriental Printed Books and MSS. In the British Museum, London, Lusick & Co. In 1910. Sun Tzu 771–56 BC. Chinese military general, strategist, philosopher, writer. Complete book, The Art of War, the oldest military treatise in the world. Chapter 1. Laying Plans. 1. Sun Tzu said, "The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject of inquiry that cannot be neglected." 2. The art of war is governed by 5 constant factors to be considered in one's deliberations when seeking to understand the conditions in the field. These are 1. The moral law, 2. Heaven, 3. Earth, 4. The commander, 5. Method and discipline. 3. The moral law causes the people to be in complete accord with their ruler, so they will follow him regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. 4. Heaven signifies night and day, cold and heat, and the times and seasons. 5. Earth comprises distances great and small, danger and security, open ground and narrow passes, and the chances of life and death. 6. The commander stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. 7. Method and discipline refer to the marshalling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the gradations of rank among officers, the maintenance of roads for supplies, and the control of military expenditure. 8. These 5 elements should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious. He who does not will fail. 9. Therefore, when deliberating military conditions, let these elements serve as a basis for comparison. 1. Which sovereign is imbued with the moral law? To which general has the greatest ability? 3. Who derives greater advantages from heaven and earth? 4. On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? 5. Which army is stronger? 6. On which side are officers and soldiers better trained? 7. In which army is there greater consistency in reward and punishment? 10. By analyzing these 7 considerations, one can forecast victory or defeat. 11. All warfare is based on deception. 12. Hence, when able to attack, appear unable. When using forces, seem inactive. When near, make the enemy believe you are far. And when far, make him believe you are near. 13. Hold out baits to entice the enemy. Feign disorder and crush him. 14. If he is secure at all points, prepare for him. If he is superior in strength, evade him. 15. If your opponent is of choleric temperament, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, so he grows arrogant. 16. If he is taking his ease, give him no rest. If his forces are united, separate them. 17. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. 18. These military devices, leading to victory, must not be divulged beforehand. 19. The general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple before the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes few calculations beforehand. Victory comes from careful preparation, while defeat results from neglect. 20. Therefore, it is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. Art of War, Chapter 2, Waging War. 1. Sun TZU said, "In the operations of war, where there are thousands of swift chariots, thousands of heavy chariots, and 100,000 armored soldiers, with provisions to be carried for 1,000 li, the expenses at home and at the front, including entertainment of guests, small items such as glue and paint, and sums spent on chariots and armor, will amount to a significant amount of money." 2. When you engage in actual fighting, if victory is long in coming, the weapons will grow dull, and the ardor will be dampened. If you lay siege to a town, you will exhaust your strength. 3. Again, if the campaign is protracted, the resources of the state will not be equal to the strain. 4. Now, when your weapons are dulled, your ardor dampened, your strength exhausted, and your treasure spent, other chieftains will spring up to take advantage of your extremity. Then no man, however wise, will be able to avert the consequences that must ensue. 5. Thus, while we have heard of stupid haste in war, cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. 6. There is no instance of a country having benefited from prolonged warfare. 7. It is only one who is thoroughly acquainted with the evils of war who can thoroughly understand the profitable way of carrying it on. 8. The skillful fighter does not raise a second levy or transport provisions twice. 9. He brings his army with him and relies on taking provisions from the enemy. Thus, the army is plentifully provided with food. 10. When a country is impoverished by military operations, it is due to distant transportation. Transporting provisions over great distances drains the resources of the state. 11. On the other hand, proximity to the enemy allows you to subsist on their resources, thereby conserving your own. 12. A wise general makes a point of feeding off the enemy. 1 cartload of the enemy's provisions is worth 20 of your own, and 1 bushel of the enemy's fodder equals 20 from your own supply. 13. To win, you must make the enemy pay for the price of war through their resources, reducing strain on your nation. 14. However, a general who takes too long in deciding or falters in action causes waste, dampens morale, and endangers the state's security. 15. The ultimate goal in waging war is not destruction, but the preservation of life. 16. Thus, a quick and decisive victory is the highest virtue in warfare. Prolonged conflict leads to loss for all parties involved. Art of War, Chapter 3, Attack by Stratagem. 1. Sun TZU said, "The best way to win a war is to conquer without fighting. The highest excellence lies in breaking the enemy's resistance without engaging in battle." 2. Thus, the rule in war is this: to capture the enemy's country intact is better than to destroy it. B. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. 3. Hence, those skilled in war subdue the enemy's army without battle. They capture cities without laying siege and overthrow kingdoms without prolonged campaigns. 4. The best policy in war is to attack the enemy's strategy. 5. The next best is to disrupt their alliances. 6. After that, attack their army. 7. The worst option is to lay siege to walled cities, as this should only be a last resort. 8. Sieges. The preparation of siege engines and other equipment requires significant time and resources. B. When the army is bogged down by a siege, the strength of soldiers wanes, and the state's resources are strained. C. A skilled general avoids prolonged sieges. 9. A general's duty is to preserve both their own forces and the enemy's assets as much as possible. A nation that wins without destroying its enemy gains strength, stability, and prestige. 10. Therefore, a wise commander avoids unnecessary destruction. B. Seeks swift, decisive victories. 11. In war, a commander's success depends on their ability to adapt, plan strategically, and strike at the enemy's weaknesses. 12. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the outcome of 100 battles. 13. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. 14. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. 15. Thus, understanding both your strengths and weaknesses and those of your opponent is essential for victory. 16. A skilled commander observes and exploits opportunities. Strike where the enemy is weakest. B. Avoid direct confrontation with superior forces. C. Divide and conquer when the enemy is united. 17. In war, success depends on a balance between boldness and caution, aggression and patience. Art of War, Chapter 4, Tactical Dispositions. 1. Sun TZU said, "The art of war is the art of positioning oneself in a place where defeat is impossible and waiting for an opportunity to conquer." 2. A skilled general ensures his own invulnerability and waits for the moment when the enemy becomes vulnerable. 3. Invincibility lies in the defense. The opportunity for victory lies in the attack. 4. One may know how to achieve victory without being able to ensure it. The ability to defend depends on preparation, while the ability to attack depends on identifying and exploiting the enemy's weaknesses. 5. To secure victory, one must first ensure their own position is unassailable. 6. Standing on the defensive indicates strength. 7. Attacking implies opportunity. 8. The skilled warrior ensures his forces are unconquerable. B. Identifies the moment to strike for victory. 9. Victory cannot be achieved merely by following fixed rules, but by adapting to the situation and using strategic planning. 10. The victorious strategist only seeks battle after the conditions for success have already been established. 11. Defeat comes to those who first fight and then seek victory. 12. The master of war establishes a strong defense first and then creates conditions for decisive attacks. 13. The skillful warrior takes a position that ensures survival and avoids any position that leads to destruction. 14. The wise general does not rely on the enemy's failure to act, but instead creates conditions that ensure their own success. 15. By positioning forces strategically, one gains the ability to either fight or avoid fighting depending on the conditions of the battlefield. 16. Victory is achieved by those who adapt to circumstances with speed and precision. 17. A commander's true skill lies in making the right moves at the right time, avoiding unnecessary conflict while positioning for inevitable success. 18. The art of war is not about rash actions, but about strategic positioning and timing. Art of War, Chapter 5, Energy. 1. Sun TZU said, "Controlling a large army is no different from controlling a small one, provided you employ proper division and structure." 2. In battle, the use of direct and indirect methods leads to an endless combination of maneuvers. 3. The direct method is used for engaging the enemy in frontal attacks, while the indirect method is used for unexpected strikes. Together, they form the foundation of military tactics. 4. There are only 5 primary musical notes, yet their combinations create endless melodies. Similarly, there are only 2 methods of attack, direct and indirect, but their combinations lead to infinite strategies. 5. The skillful warrior ensures that his strategy is fluid, adapting to the situation and the enemy's movements. 6. Just as there are only 5 basic colors that create infinite hues and 5 primary flavors that yield countless tastes, the combinations of direct and indirect tactics create endless possibilities in warfare. 7. The ability to combine and recombine these methods makes a commander unpredictable, overwhelming the enemy. 8. In battle, energy may be likened to the force of water rushing down a mountain. Its power comes from its ability to adapt to the terrain, channeling its strength into focused momentum. 9. The expert commander concentrates his forces where they are most needed, striking with overwhelming energy at a single point. 10. Energy in warfare requires careful balance. Dispersed energy is weak. Focused energy is invincible. 11. The skillful fighter positions himself in a way that forces the enemy to react to him, not the other way around. He creates conditions that compel the enemy to expose their weaknesses. 12. The ability to manipulate the energy of one's forces is key to achieving victory. 13. In war, the application of energy determines whether the army moves like a gentle stream or strikes like a thunderous storm. 14. The commander must guide the army as one directs a single individual, ensuring unity and coordinated effort. 15. A skillful leader employs both direct and indirect strategies, ensuring that each movement builds toward a decisive outcome. 16. Victory belongs to the commander, who understands how to shape energy, focus it, and unleash it with precision. Art of War, Chapter 6, Weak Points and Strong. 1. Sun TZU said, "Those who occupy strategic advantages and adapt to changing circumstances can ensure victory." The ability to exploit weaknesses and avoid strengths is the essence of military strategy. 2. The art of war involves finding the enemy's vulnerabilities and concentrating your strength against them while ensuring your own position is unassailable. 3. The skillful warrior does not rely on the fixed disposition of the enemy, but instead creates opportunities based on the situation. 4. To avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak is the essence of strategy. 5. The commander who fully understands the terrain, the enemy's position, and his own capabilities can attack when and where the enemy least expects. 6. When the enemy defends at many points, they become vulnerable at others. 7. A skilled strategist manipulates the battlefield to create confusion, forcing the enemy to respond to feints while the true attack comes elsewhere. 8. The secret to victory lies in fluidity. Just as water avoids high ground and flows toward the lowest points, a skilled army avoids the enemy's strengths and targets their weaknesses. 9. The disposition of troops must be as formless as water. Just as water conforms to the shape of its container, a skilled army adapts to the circumstances of the battlefield. 10. In battle, there is no fixed method to victory. Success depends on the ability to adjust tactics according to the enemy's moves. 11. The key to victory is understanding when to engage and when to avoid confrontation. The wise commander fights only battles he can win. 12. An enemy will often expose weaknesses through overconfidence or misjudgment. The skillful general waits for such moments to act decisively. 13. Appear at points where the enemy does not expect you. Attack where they are unprepared. 14. By maintaining flexibility and concealing your movements, you can keep the enemy guessing, forcing them into errors. 15. When the enemy is strong, evade them. When they are weak, attack swiftly and decisively. 16. Victory is achieved by adapting to the situation, avoiding predictability, and capitalizing on the enemy's mistakes. 17. The greatest commanders ensure their own strength while exposing the weaknesses of their opponents. 18. In war, no position is inherently strong or weak. Strength depends on preparation and the ability to exploit circumstances. Art of War, Chapter 7. Maneuvering. 1. Sun TZU said, "The art of war is about movement and positioning. A commander must carefully plan and execute maneuvers to gain an advantageous position over the enemy." 2. Maneuvering an army requires adaptability and awareness of both terrain and enemy disposition. Poor maneuvering leads to disorder and chaos, while skilled maneuvering ensures victory. 3. The control of a large army is like directing a small group. It depends on discipline and clear communication. 4. The ability to maneuver effectively depends on ensuring unity of purpose and precise coordination among the troops. 5. A skilled general avoids unnecessary movement that could tire the army and focuses on maneuvers that yield strategic advantage. 6. Reckless advance without proper knowledge leads to entrapment, while hasty retreat results in vulnerability. 7. A wise commander moves only when confident of success. He avoids battles that offer no chance of advantage. 8. When moving an army, careful consideration must be given to the terrain, supplies, and potential ambushes. 9. A commander must deceive the enemy during maneuvers, appearing to be weak when strong and distant when near. 10. Use false information and feign movements to confuse the enemy, forcing them into mistakes. 11. Always position your army so that it is free to act while the enemy is constrained by the battlefield or their own choices. 12. The ability to move quickly and decisively is a hallmark of successful commanders. Speed allows you to outmaneuver the enemy and seize the initiative. 13. Troops must be trained to move with both speed and discipline, ensuring they can adapt to sudden changes in strategy. 14. Maneuvering an army successfully requires foresight, careful planning, and a deep understanding of the enemy's intentions. 15. Flexibility in maneuvers is essential. A rigid plan is doomed to fail, while a fluid approach allows the commander to adjust to the ever-changing dynamics of battle. 16. Terrain plays a crucial role in maneuvering. The skilled commander uses high ground, narrow passes, and other features to his advantage while avoiding unfavorable conditions. 17. When maneuvering, unity of purpose and coordination are critical. Disorganized movements lead to confusion and defeat. 18. A commander must lead with authority and ensure that orders are clearly communicated and followed. 19. Victory in battle depends not only on strength, but on the ability to outmaneuver the enemy. The art of maneuvering lies in seizing opportunities, creating confusion for the enemy, and maintaining discipline and unity within your own ranks. 20. The commander who masters maneuvering gains the power to dictate the terms of the battle, ensuring victory through superior positioning and timing. Art of War, Chapter 8, Variation of Tactics. 1. Sun TZU said, "In military operations, there are no fixed rules. The ability to adapt and vary tactics according to the circumstances is the mark of a skilled commander." 2. A general who employs a single method without regard for changing conditions is bound to fail. Flexibility and creativity are essential for success in warfare. 3. There are times when direct attack is appropriate and times when indirect methods yield better results. A wise commander understands when to employ each. 4. The conditions of the battlefield are constantly changing. The commander who can recognize and respond to these changes will always maintain the advantage. 5. Success in battle comes not from repeating old tactics, but from devising new ones suited to the current situation. 6. Rigid adherence to a single strategy makes a commander predictable. A predictable army is vulnerable to the enemy's countermeasures. 7. The key to victory lies in keeping the enemy guessing. A skilled commander alternates between attack and defense, feints and real maneuvers, so the enemy cannot anticipate his next move. 8. There are 3 ways a commander can bring ruin to his army. A. By ordering in advance or retreat contrary to the principles of war. Acting against reason disrupts the army's morale and cohesion. B. By interfering with the officer's authority. Micromanagement undermines the confidence and effectiveness of the chain of command. C. By failing to adapt tactics to the conditions of the battlefield. Ignoring the realities of the situation leads to defeat. 9. A commander who lacks the ability to change tactics when necessary is no different from an unskilled gambler relying on luck. 10. A general must observe the enemy and the battlefield with keen insight, always prepared to alter his strategy as needed. 11. Flexibility in tactics is not only about responding to the enemy, but also about seizing opportunities that arise unexpectedly. 12. The commander who knows when to vary his tactics will always have an edge over an opponent who is rigid or predictable. 13. It is unwise to attack simply because you are strong, just as it is unwise to avoid action purely because the enemy appears strong. A good commander assesses the balance of power and acts accordingly. 14. Knowing when to fight and when to retreat is a vital skill. Sometimes, avoiding battle is the best strategy for ultimate victory. 15. Victory belongs to the commander who can adapt to the chaos and unpredictability of war. Tactics must be varied, responsive, and innovative to outsmart the enemy. 16. As water changes shape to fit its container, so must a general's strategy change to fit the circumstances. Flexibility is the essence of success in warfare. Art of War, Chapter 9, Army on the March. 1. Sun TZU said, "The movement of an army requires careful consideration of terrain, supply lines, and the psychological state of the troops." A commander must understand both the physical and mental aspects of marching. 2. The general must plan the route carefully, considering the terrain and the resources available along the way. The army must avoid unnecessary hardships. 3. When preparing for a march, ensure that the troops have adequate supplies, food, water, and medical care so that they do not become demoralized or exhausted. 4. Knowledge of the terrain is essential. Know where you can find provisions, water sources, and places for rest. Avoid areas where the enemy might set traps or ambush the troops. 5. The discipline of the army must be maintained, even on the march. Troops should remain in proper formation, with officers overseeing the ranks to ensure order. 6. The psychological state of the soldiers is just as important as their physical endurance. A demoralized army is as dangerous as a fatigued one. Hence, the commander must keep morale high through leadership and care. 7. Never march the army too far or too quickly without regard to their condition. Exhaustion causes disorder and weakens the army. 8. When on the march, avoid spreading the army too thin. A dispersed force is vulnerable to surprise attacks or ambushes. 9. The army must remain united, not only in terms of physical location, but also in purpose and intent. Disunity can lead to confusion and defeat. 10. Keep the army well rested and refreshed. Forced marches, if overdone, can lead to ill health, low morale, and poor performance in battle. 11. While on the march, remain vigilant for signs of enemy activity. If the enemy has been in the area recently, their movements will leave traces, such as burned villages, abandoned camps, or tracks in the ground. 12. A wise commander uses intelligence to avoid direct confrontation when unprepared and exploits the enemy's mistakes when they make them. 13. Be prepared to adapt the march according to unforeseen circumstances. Sudden changes in the weather, terrain, or enemy actions can force a change in strategy. 14. The commander must be able to adjust to these changes without causing panic in the ranks. Proper leadership ensures that the army remains calm and ready for any situation. 15. The goal of the march is not just to move, but to do so in a way that places the army in a position of strategic advantage over the enemy. 16. Consider the importance of positioning relative to the enemy, available resources, and potential battle sites. 17. Strive to arrive at key locations such as river crossings, high ground, or defensible positions before the enemy does. Being first can provide significant advantages in battle. 18. The army on the march is not only about moving from one location to another, but about moving with purpose, discipline, and awareness. 19. By maintaining high morale, careful planning, and readiness to adapt, a commander can ensure that the army reaches its destination in a strong and capable condition, prepared for the next phase of the campaign. Art of War, Chapter 10, Terrain. 1. Sun TZU said, "The terrain on which a battle is fought plays a crucial role in determining the outcome." A wise commander understands the terrain and uses it to his advantage. The careful analysis of the land is as important as the strength of the army. 2. There are 6 types of terrain, each with unique characteristics that must be considered when planning a military campaign. A. Accessible terrain, ground that is easy to traverse and offers no major hindrances to movement. It is advantageous for both sides. B. Entangling terrain, ground that is difficult to navigate, such as dense forests or swamps, where movement is hindered and forces are vulnerable. C. Impassable terrain, land that is so difficult to traverse such as mountains, deserts, or rivers that it may be avoided altogether. D. Narrow passes, areas that restrict movement to narrow paths or channels, offering opportunities for ambushes or defensive positions. E. Difficult terrain, ground that requires special considerations, such as uneven ground or areas prone to flooding, making it difficult for armies to advance or retreat. F. Open ground, wide, open areas where there is little cover or obstacles, often suitable for large-scale engagements or maneuvering. 3. A general must adapt his tactics to the specific terrain. A commander should be able to identify favorable terrain for defense, ambushes, and surprise attacks, and use unfavorable terrain to force the enemy into a disadvantageous position. 4. The commander should consider the terrain in relation to the enemy's movements. A well-placed army can control the terrain and restrict the enemy's options, forcing them into a position where they are vulnerable. 5. High ground is universally considered one of the most advantageous positions in battle. From elevated positions, a commander can survey the battlefield, gain superior defense, and execute better control over troop movements. 6. Avoid placing your army on lower ground, as it can leave them exposed to attacks from superior positions. Always aim to occupy high ground whenever possible. 7. Terrain is not only important in battle, but also during movement. Knowing the terrain in advance allows an army to move more efficiently and avoids wasting resources or time. 8. When marching, a general must consider the availability of roads, rivers, and natural barriers. Knowing how to navigate terrain can expedite an army's movements while preventing ambushes or traps. 9. A wise commander knows how to use terrain for defensive purposes. Natural obstacles, such as rivers, mountains, and forests can serve as barriers, forcing the enemy to take a longer or more difficult route. 10. Fortify positions on difficult terrain or narrow passes, as these areas are easier to defend against larger forces. A well-defended position in difficult terrain can significantly hinder an opponent's ability to advance. 11. Adapt your battle tactics to the conditions of the terrain. For example, in a dense forest, large-scale formations may be ineffective, so smaller, more flexible units may be necessary. In open terrain, larger forces may have the advantage. 12. Never fight on terrain that favors the enemy. If the opponent holds high ground or is positioned in a favorable location, be prepared to retreat or reposition your forces to neutralize their advantage. 13. Terrain is a decisive factor in warfare. A commander must thoroughly understand the terrain and use it to outmaneuver the enemy. The ability to adapt tactics to the landscape and make full use of favorable ground is a hallmark of a skilled general. 14. Victory often depends not only on the strength of the army, but on how well the commander uses the terrain to support strategic objectives. Art of War, Chapter 11, The 9 Situations. 1. Sun TZU said, "There are 9 situations or stages that an army can find itself in during a campaign. A wise commander must be able to recognize each situation and adapt their strategy accordingly." 2. This refers to a situation where the army is far from home and in unfamiliar territory. It is when the soldiers are scattered and the morale is weak. In such a situation, the commander should be cautious and avoid open battle. The primary objective is to regroup and restore morale, avoiding unnecessary risks. 3. This is ground where the army is positioned advantageously with little danger of enemy ambush or counterattack. The army is in a position of relative security and can move freely. A commander in this situation can advance and engage the enemy or prepare for further maneuvers, but vigilance is still required. 4. In this situation, the army is located in a position that can be disputed by both sides. It is neither strongly advantageous nor entirely neutral. The commander must weigh the risks and benefits carefully, as the terrain may lead to conflict, but it is important to prepare for swift engagements and possible retreat. 5. Open ground is where there are few obstacles, offering an equal opportunity for movement. In this situation, both the army and the enemy can maneuver freely. It can lead to direct confrontation, and the commander must assess both the enemy's strength and their own capabilities before deciding whether to fight or withdraw. 6. This is the kind of ground where several routes or paths meet. Such ground is important because whoever controls it can control the flow of movements in the region. The commander should seize control of such ground to disrupt enemy movements or ensure the free passage of their own forces. 7. Serious ground is any location of strategic importance that requires the army to maintain a defensive posture. In such situations, the army must be prepared to either defend the position or prepare for a counterattack. Careful attention must be given to fortifications and the state of readiness. 8. This refers to terrain that is challenging for movement, such as thick forests, swamps, or mountain ranges. The Army's movements are limited, and their operations are more vulnerable to enemy disruption. The commander must ensure the Army is prepared for any defensive or offensive actions in such difficult terrain. 9. Hemmed-in ground refers to a situation where the Army is trapped or surrounded. The commander must remain calm and attempt to break free by exploiting any weaknesses in the enemy's position. A retreat is sometimes the only viable option, but careful and tactical decisions must be made to avoid unnecessary losses. 10. Desperate ground is a situation where the Army faces imminent destruction, with no room for retreat or escape. At this point, the commander must take decisive action, regardless of the odds. The Army must fight with full commitment, as survival depends on victory. This is the moment when the troops must be driven by the desire to either break through or perish in battle. 10. The 9 situations represent different stages or conditions of a battlefield, and understanding them is crucial for making decisions about where to engage or avoid conflict. A good commander can recognize these situations, adapt accordingly, and ensure victory through careful strategy. 11. A successful commander must assess the situation they are in and make the best decision based on the resources, terrain, and the positioning of both their own army and the enemy. Avoiding unnecessary risk and seizing opportunities are key aspects of successful strategy. Art of War, Chapter 12, The Attack by Fire. 1. Sun TZU said, "There are 5 ways of attacking with fire. The first is to burn soldiers in their camp. B. The second is to burn stores. C. The third is to burn baggage trains. D. The fourth is to burn arsenals and magazines. E. The fifth is to hurl dropping fire among the enemy." 2. In order to carry out an attack, we must have means available. The material for raising fire should always be kept in readiness. 3. There is a proper season for making attacks with fire, and special days for starting a conflagration. 4. The proper season is when the weather is very dry. The special days are those when the moon is in the constellations of the sieve, the wall, the wing, or the crossbar, for these 4 are all days of rising wind. 5. In attacking with fire, one should be prepared to meet 5 possible developments. 1. When fire breaks out inside to the enemy's camp, respond at once with an attack from without. 2. If there is an outbreak of fire, but the enemy's soldiers remain quiet, bide your time and do not attack. 3. When the force of the flames has reached its height, follow it up with an attack, if that is practicable. If not, stay where you are. For if it is possible to make an assault with fire from without, do not wait for it to break out within, but deliver your attack at a favorable moment. 5. When you start a fire, be to windward of it. Do not attack from the leeward. 6. A wind that rises in the daytime lasts long, but a night breeze soon falls. 7. In every army, the 5 developments connected with fire must be known, the movements of the stars calculated, and a watch kept for the proper days. 8. Hence those who use fire as an aid to the attack show intelligence. Those who use water as an aid to the attack gain an accession of strength. 9. By means of water, An enemy may be intercepted, but not robbed of all his belongings. 10. Unhappy is the fate of one who tries to win his battles and succeed in his attacks without cultivating the spirit of enterprise. For the result is waste of time and general stagnation. 11. Hence the saying, the enlightened ruler lays his plans well ahead. The good general cultivates his resources. 12. Move not unless you see an advantage. Use not your troops unless there is something to be gained. Fight not unless the position is critical. 13. No ruler should put troops into the field merely to gratify his own spleen. No general should fight a battle simply out of pique. 14. If it is to your advantage, make a forward move. If not, stay where you are. 15. Anger may in time change to gladness. Vexation be succeeded by content. 16. But a kingdom that has once been destroyed can never come again into being, nor can the dead ever be brought back to life. 17. Hence the enlightened ruler is heedful, and the good general full of caution. This is the way to keep a country at peace and an army intact. Art of War, Chapter 13. The Use of Spies. 1. Sun TZU said, raising a host of 100,000 men and marching them great distances entails heavy loss on the people and a drain on the resources of the state. The daily expenditure will amount to 1,000 ounces of silver. There will be commotion at home and abroad, and men will drop down exhausted on the highways. As many as 700,000 families will be impeded in their labor. 2. Hostile armies may face each other for years, striving for the victory which is decided in a single day. This being so, to remain in ignorance of the enemy's condition simply because one grudges the outlay of 100 ounces of silver in honors and emoluments is the height of inhumanity. 3. One who acts thus is no leader of men, no present help to his sovereign, no master of victory. 4. Thus, what enables the wise sovereign and the good general to strike and conquer, and achieve things beyond the reach of ordinary men, is foreknowledge. 5. Now this foreknowledge cannot be elicited from spirits. It cannot be obtained inductively from experience, nor by any deductive calculation. 6. Knowledge of the enemy's dispositions can only be obtained from other men. 7. Hence the use of spies, of whom there are 5 classes. 1. Local spies, having local inhabitants as spies. 2. Inward spies, making use of officials of the enemy. 3. Converted spies, getting hold of the enemy's spies and using them for our own purposes. 4. Doomed spies, doing certain things openly for purposes of deception, and allowing our spies to know of them and report them to the enemy. 5. Surviving spies, those who bring back news from the enemy's camp. 8. When these 5 kinds of spy, all at work, none can discover the secret system. This is called divine manipulation of the threads. It is the sovereign's most precious faculty. 9. Having local spies means employing the services of the inhabitants of a district. 10. Having inward spies, making use of officials of the enemy. 11. Having converted spies, getting hold of the enemy's spies and using them for our own purposes. 12. Having doomed spies, doing certain things openly for purposes of deception, and allowing our spies to know of them and report them to the enemy. 13. Surviving spies, finally, are those who bring back news from the enemy's camp. 14. Hence it is that which none in the whole army are more intimate relations to be maintained than with spies. None should be more liberally rewarded. In no other business should greater secrecy be preserved. 15. Spies cannot be usefully employed without a certain intuitive sagacity. 16. They cannot be properly managed without benevolence and straightforwardness. 17. Without subtle ingenuity of mind, one cannot make certain of the truth of their reports. 18. Be subtle, and use your spies for every kind of business. 19. If a secret piece of news is divulged by a spy before the time is ripe, he must be put to death together with the man to whom the secret was told. 20. Whether the object be to crush an army, to storm a city, or to assassinate an individual, it is always necessary to begin by finding out the names of the attendants, the aides-de-camp, and doorkeepers, and sentries of the general in command. Our spies must be commissioned to ascertain these. 21. The enemy spies who have come to spy on us must be sought out, tempted with bribes, led away, and comfortably housed. Thus they will become converted spies and available for our service. 22. It is through the information brought by the converted spy that we are able to acquire and employ local and inward spies. 23. It is owing to his information, again, that we can cause the doomed spy to carry false tidings to the enemy. 24. Lastly, it is by his information that the surviving spy can be used on appointed occasions. 25. The end and aim of spying in all its 5 varieties is knowledge of the enemy, and this knowledge can only be derived, in the first instance, from the converted spy. Hence it is essential that the converted spy be treated with the utmost liberality. 26. Of old, the rise of the Yin dynasty was due to Aichi, who had served under the Xia. Likewise, the rise of the Zhou dynasty was due to Liya, who had served under the Yin. 27. Hence it is only the enlightened ruler and the wise general who will use the highest intelligence of the army for purposes of spying, and thereby they achieve great results. Spies are a most important element in water, because on them depends an army's ability to move.